Hey guys, welcome back to Hampshire Spaniel Training, and in this week's episode we're going to be doing a little bit of hunting for a retrieve. So I'm starting to teach her to hunt in front of me, to use her nose for the ground scent to try and find a retrieve. She's a good little retriever, so I can do this quite early on with her. It's about keeping the dog in around me, entertained, trying to get that focus on the retrieve. It is always a little bit messy to start with, but over the weeks to come it will get neater and neater. In next week's episode I'm going to be doing some work on retrieving, so you'll see me using the heel lead and trying to advance a retrieve. So we're going to be doing some backs and some lefts and rights and some bits and pieces with that. Don't forget, if you're looking at getting a new pup soon, or you've got one and you need some help with your training, send me a message on Facebook or Instagram, Hampshire Spaniel Training, and you can send me a message and I can give you some information on my online training where I can help and focus your training and give you that support that you might need. Any training products you might need, go through to Spaniel Training Kit, or again you can send me a message on Hampshire Spaniel Training. Otherwise, let's get training. Good girl. Good girl, honey. Here, good girl. Right guys, so we're going to try and do a little bit of hunt training here with Honey. I've got a couple of little retrieves here. I've got a tiny little rabbit retrieve, which I'm going to drop, and I've got another one so that I can do rubs on the ground whilst I'm hunting, to try and get her, to keep her motivated, to keeping her head down. That's going to be our key thing. So I'm going to walk back, I'm going to drop the retrieve as we go. I'm going to drop it behind this log here, hopefully she doesn't see, so she can't just see it straight away. Come on, good girl, good girl. So I'm going to sit her up, take the lead off, sit, sit. It's not pretty at the start, but we just got to get her going. Ready? Here we go. Good girl. Here, honey. Good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl. Here, I'm just using my voice at the moment. Rub behind me. Good. And she's hunting that little bit of scent. Good girl, good girl, good girl. She keeps picking stuff up. Good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl. Goes behind me a little bit at the moment, but I'm not too worried about that. Good girl, here. Here, trying to not let her see me rub on the ground. Good girl, here. Good girl, good girl. Tail's going, that's what I want. So we're coming up to the retrieve now. Here, good girl, good girl. There's not a lot of wind today, so it makes this harder. Good girl, she's right on top of it. Good girl, good girl. Here, good girl. Trying to keep her the right side of the wind all the time. She's almost on it. Good girl, here. Good girl, good girl. Here, here, good girl. I'm going to help her out a little bit. I picked it up without seeing, and I'm going to chuck it behind her without her realising. Good girl, 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 good girl. Sit. Good girl, good girl. Lovely. So she's not finding it perfect at the moment. There's literally almost zero wind today. It's just slightly coming towards us. I'm going to drop it in a slightly different spot this time. I'm going to drop it down. Now this time she's a bit of a wriggler. I'm going to let her see this one. I'm going to drop it, and I'm going to kick it on the floor, on the going the direction I'm going to start her from. She doesn't like being held, this one. Good girl. I'm going to pick it up, put that in my pocket. Sit, sit. Good girl, sit. Go on. Good girl. Where's he gone? Where's he gone? Where's he gone? Where's he gone? Here, here. Good girl. Where's he gone? Good girl. Here. Yeah, good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl. Yeah, good girl. Yeah, good girl, good girl, good girl. Tail's going. Good girl. Yeah, good girl. Where's it gone? Yeah, good girl, good girl. Yeah, you can see me rubbing it on the ground. That's to keep scent on the ground all the time. Now, oh, good girl. Put that one in my pocket. Good girl. Well done. Good girl. Now, because there's so little wind, that's sort of creating a little bit of a block on the retrieve. I'm going to do this one a little bit closer. I'm going to drop it a bit closer to the ground this time, still behind something, because I don't want her to see it straight away. Otherwise, she's not going to learn to hunt for it. She's just going to use her eyes. So I'm going to kick this round again. What's that? You like that, don't you? Good girl. Good girl. Sit, sit. Go on. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Always picking up twigs, this one. Good girl. Here. 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 Good girl. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Here. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl, good girl. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Good girl. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Yeah, good girl. If there's a bit more wind, this would be a lot easier today. Yeah, good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl. She's on it there. Just the wrong side of the wind. Good girl, good girl. Yeah, good girl. Getting wet today. Should have my salopettes on really. Good girl, good girl. Now this time I'm not going to put it down ahead of time. I'm probably going to throw it over her head when she doesn't see. So I'm going to take the other one out again. I'm being very deliberate in kicking this around. The more scent I can put down, the better. She really doesn't like being held. Do you, honey? So I'm keeping on kicking it. I'm going to chuck it all the way back here. This is where a ball can be quite good sometimes because it rolls. Good girl. Sit, sit, monkey. Good girl, good girl. Good girl, good girl, good girl. Where's he? Here. This one's quite easy for me to disguise my hand and still be able to make a hunt for the scent. Here, where's he gone? Where's he gone? Where's he gone? Where's he gone? He's getting a bit silly now. Good girl, good girl. Yeah, good girl, good girl, good girl. Good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl, good girl. Go on, good girl, good girl, good girl. When there's more scent, it gives the dog much better chance to hunt. And so when there's very little wind like today, the ground's good because it's damp, that helps. But because there's no wind giving this scent something for her to hunt for, it makes it a lot harder. At this stage, she easily gets distracted by anything. Constantly picking up sticks, it's just part of it. I have to just knock them out of her mouth and keep going, basically. It's one of those things. I'm going to drop it a little bit further this way this time. I'm going to drop it this time, so just drop it behind me. As long as she doesn't see me put it down, that's the main thing. Kick this along. Do it a little bit closer to start with today. Sit, sit, sit. Good girl. Sit. Good girl. I just chucked a twig down there just to get her going. That's a twig. Good girl. Here. Good girl. Good girl. If she starts to hunt onto it, I might let her just hunt. She's going a bit better there because she can smell it a little bit ahead of herself. Here. Good girl. Get the right side of the wind. Otherwise, she's got no chance. Oh, turned on it. Yeah, lovely. Good girl. Good girl. I will replace my voice commands and my whistle via my voice once she gets a little bit better. But I don't want to make it too complicated. She likes parading with this. So I'm going to do one without putting it down this time. So again, you'll often see me rubbing it along the ground just to make her think it's there. Okay. Sit, sit. Good girl, sit. Sit, sit. Well, off we go then. Yeah. Good girl, good girl. Here, good girl. Good girl, good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Well done. Good girl. Good girl. She's certainly keen. Just need the right conditions to get the best out of her, and that's often the way it is. So I do a little bit of this each session I come out with her. And as we go into the autumn, the conditions will get a bit better. She's a little bit more instincts coming out. We keep her hunting for the retrieve. The main thing is that she finds it through her nose and not through your hand. I'm also trying to control her, keep her within that zone so that she's finding stuff at my fingertips. If she's finding stuff far away from you, then that's where she's always going to want to be. So doing a little bit of this and a little bit of the heel and the sit and the retrieves as part of that, which you also obviously see in this video. It's always a bit messy at first, but it will hopefully slowly start to come together, I promise you. Well done, honey. Come on in. Right guys, so I thought I would just show you a little bit of lead work. Now I normally start my lead work with my clients at around about 13 weeks, And in the first phase, all I'm looking to do is get the dog moving in some sort of fashion on my left hand side. Now those early sessions are normally just 30 seconds here and 30 seconds there. I'm not doing lots of volume, I'm just doing small sessions because at the beginning it can be pretty messy, and so we don't want to overstress the dog. And as I said, it normally takes about 2 weeks to get the dog normally moving in some sort of fashion. I personally then very quickly mix in my retrieving with my heel work. That way it takes the pressure off the lead work, it means the dog's focusing on me because they have to do the retrieving, and it softens everything a little bit. After that stage, once the dog is super confident on the lead, then we can start working on sit and all the other elements that come along afterwards. You can see here Honey looking super happy. As I said, I don't do an awful big amount of just heel work. There you saw me doing a little bit of recall sit, which I'm going to start to do a bit more with her. At the moment she's a little bit reluctant with that, so I'm not pressing it particularly. I will just come around on it gently as I move forwards. If you're struggling with any of your training, perhaps send me a message on Facebook, Hampshire Spaniel Training. Send me a message on there and I might be able to give you some information on my online training where you can work directly with me through WhatsApp. Anyway, hopefully you're enjoying this little session. You can see Honey definitely is. And in next week's episode, you're going to see me doing a little bit of retrieving in amongst us heel work, and you'll see how I start to put those little bits of training together. So one of the other things you might have seen me do is I'm using these trees here. Again, I've got just the fractions, a bit of wind in our face. And what I'm doing is I'm using the bigger retrieve to start with. I'm throwing it into the stick pile. I'm turning her away because she's too good at finding them straight away. So I make it a little bit more difficult. Sit her up, back. I'm making that noise a bit like what will be my hump whistle later. Good girl, good girl, good girl, Honey, good girl. Well done. Good girl. Well done. So I'm going to throw it in again. Make sure she sees. Oh, it's too easy. I'm going to send her from a bit further back to make it a bit more difficult. Sit her up, hand on the chest, throw the right arm out. Honey, back. Too easy. So this time I'm going to use the smaller retrieve, honey, which is going to make it a little bit trickier. So this one's probably the size of, I don't know, a very small box of matches. So I'm going to throw it a bit further. That's a bit trickier, that one. So I'm going to set her up, hand on the chest, back. Oh, it's too easy, isn't it, Honey? It's too easy. It's too easy. Good girl. Good girl. I'll try a little bit further back this time. I'm using the same spot so she gets used to it. Nice big throw. I'm going to send her from a bit further. Sit, back. You notice I'm coming with her in case she struggles, so I'm there with her if something goes wrong. Not going to look at her. Too far out of the area, I'll get her back. Again, this would be easier with more wind. No, she's onto it now. Good girl. Good girl. Well done, Honey. Good girl. Here. Good girl. Hold, sit. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Anyway, so this is all a mixture of hunting for the retrieve through hunting, but also mark retrieves, and then hopefully sort of trying to hunt an area out to try and find it. Well done, Honey. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this week's vlog episode with Honey. I am going to do another one next week with a bit of luck. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe, guys. Like, any questions, stick them in the description below. Happy training.